Hello everyone, my name is Edward, and as a lot of you know, I've recently been learning the 180 emblem speedrun for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which is obviously a huge category, and I decided that practicing each character's set of missions with all A ranks would be a good idea, so here's some Knuckles speedruns. And this run is not particularly good or anything. It's alright. It basically just shows off all the strats, and there's not really a lot of optimization or whatever, but it also has the correct route for collecting animals and upgrades, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And I'm not really going to bother optimizing this too much because it's just a practice category, but I had fun doing it, so I'll probably do more of it. Anyway, first we're going to do the M1s. And the way that I'm doing this is that I'm going to get the upgrades just like I would in the hero story portion of the 180 emblems run. Even though I have them all now, obviously, because this is after everything, then I am just going to, pretend, because pretending is fun. So this is Wild Canyon, and this kind of obvious execution mistake here where I flew up above the wind tunnel. You can get Wild Canyon track without going all the way back up. But I was running against a pretty good set of Mission 1s compared to the last time I did this, but I was also running against a really bad set of Mission 4s, so there's a lot of time save at the end. Pumpkin Hill, obviously here, we're gonna go, quote-unquote, collect the Shovel Claw upgrade. The Knuckles portion of the 180 emblems run is particularly special because you do it last. And you do it last because Knuckles has easy access to animals that are necessary for training the Chow, which I'll explain a little bit later. Basically, we're going to collect some skeleton dogs at Pumpkin Hill here because they're very easy to find, and we're also going to get some condors in Aquatic Mine because there's also an easily available condor. In the story mode of Pumpkin Hill, the game will actually force you to get a third piece that you have to dig for to make sure that you get the Shovel Claw upgrade, and I just so happen to get a third piece that you dig for here. That last piece can actually be in two places. It's kind of annoying if you guess the wrong one. It wastes a lot of time. But 39 is, still an okay time. Obviously not as good as a 32, but a 32 is an exceptionally amazing Pumpkin Hill. Alright, and here's Aquatic Mine, which also, as I said before, these Mission 1s were nothing particularly special, nothing to write home about. There was actually a pretty significant execution mistake in Death Chamber coming up. Alright, and this is pretty bad at RNG. If you ever have to go back up to the top in Aquatic Mine, that's not good. So that's not a very good second piece, and then, dangerous place. So I would say this is a bit below average for Aquatic Mine. 38. I'd say about 35 is average. Maybe 34 or 33. But it's better than my Hero Story PB, Aquatic Mine, which was a 40. Not too good. Okay. Now in Death Chamber I actually end up getting a free piece. And you can see this free piece very briefly if you're looking at the right side of the screen as the level loads in. This is Bugs on Patrol. And I could have capitalized on this free piece and gotten some time save, but unfortunately I had some massive brain damage when it came to getting out of this room. And I'll watch out flip the hourglass for us. What a bro. Usually green room first pieces are not good, because they're just kind of far away. And in the treasure that you can't open. This is in blue. The game tends to form pieces in triangles. There's actually, I could talk more specifically about how the game selects pieces. The first piece is completely randomly generated. After that, it'll use basically a way of determining distances, such that the 50% of the pieces that are closest to the first piece won't be able to spawn. So the game is actively trying to screw you over and give you bad pieces, but yeah, we won't talk about that execution mistake where I could not get out of green room which is not a mistake that I have made, or is a mistake that I have not made in months. It's been a very long time since I've had that particular thing happen to me. A Meteor Herd Mission 1 is a bit interesting, because you actually need to clip out to get the sunglasses. It's much faster than doing things the normal way. And I actually managed to save time on this split because I managed to clip out of bounds much faster than before. And then you just reset. So there's our sunglasses. And you need the sunglasses for the some ring collecting missions and also some mission 5s. So they're necessary to get along with Knuckles' Mystic Melody. And as for the third piece, it kind of is even more hard to explain. Instead of using distances, it kind of draws a triangle between all the 3 possible pieces, and it wants that triangle to have a big area. So if the triangle of pieces, this is like really weird to explain, but if it's in the lower 50%, then that third piece won't be able to spawn, so that's kind of the gist of it. I'm not really that good at explaining the super technical aspects of the game, but... And this is just my usual terrible Meteor Herd. Meteor Herd is not a very nice level, tends to give me bad pieces. Alright, and now we get into the Mission 2s, the Collect 100 Rings. Wild Canyon Mission 2 is a little annoying. If you're doing the IL ring collecting route, you can get times that are sub 20, but we need the Mystic Melody, so... And you also need the Mystic Melody for Death Chamber Mission 2. Believe it or not, because you get rings to spawn by playing the Mystic Melody. You also need it for Meteor Herd Mission 3. Although you don't need it for Meteor Herd Mission 3 if you're playing the Dreamcast version, because there's a clip in Dreamcast that is only in Dreamcast and allows you to go directly to the Lost Chow. Same thing in Mad Space, actually. There's a Dreamcast exclusive clip that allows you to skip playing the Mystic Melody in that level. So, that's pretty cool. And 35 is not a very good time, to be honest. All of that execution was just a bit iffy. I usually average a 33 or 32. And Pumpkin Hill Mission 2 is where I collect my first skeleton dog. I'm actually going to use a strat where I abuse the back ring spawn. Basically, the back ring appears if you take a hit, so you lose your rings. So I'm going to deliberately get hit by that ghost, collect the skeleton dog, and then collect the rings that are in these balloons, and then touch the back ring with just under 50 rings. And the first half of this was executed quite well. I actually was able to perform a gravity drill dive to go towards the ghost, which saves a little bit of time because you're drill diving at an angle instead of straight down. But then I made a really dumb execution mistake, missed the first balloon. If not, this probably could have been about 2 seconds faster, which at 37 would be quite a good time considering that I'm going out of my way to get a skeleton dog. Okay, Aquatic Mine Mission 2 is, in my opinion, the hardest Knuckles Mission 2 to execute consistently. Just requires a lot of very precise movement, and we're also going to collect our first Condor here as well. Already a mistake right off the bat, as I did not collect those rings effectively, the circle rings at the start. Now I'm going to use the sunglasses here to get this invisible line to spawn, and then clip out of bounds. A lot of people don't actually know that if you have the water level set at 1, then there's no water in the lower area. I'm not actually sure why Knuckles didn't... That dash pad just didn't work. I've actually never seen that happen before. And as a result, I did not get a particularly good time on this. 36 is not too good. You can get times as low as sub 30. My IL time is way better than that, obviously, but, you know, for run consistency, really that's all this run is about, just being able to get a feel for the strats, not really have it super optimized. I mean, when you're playing a 180 emblems run, you're doing missions for, 5.5 or 6 hours, which is a long time to go with playing perfectly, so I'm not expecting perfection, obviously. And Death Chamber Mission 2 is also quite a difficult mission too, but I've spent a lot more time grinding this IL, as Ethmar will attest to. I actually deliberately go a little bit slowly in that room to avoid getting shot by those guys, but it's a bit of a safe strat. Losing the magnetic shield here actually costs quite a bit of time. The two big mistakes in this were taking forever to kill the fire dance guy, and then also as soon as I get into this room, I kind of don't land on the ledge, I do a ledge grab. So this could have been a bit better. But a 58 is still not a really terrible time. Meteor Herd Mission 2 is a very strange IL, as you'll see in a second. Like Pumpkin Hill Mission 2, I'm gonna deliberately get hit and spawn a back ring, which you also do in Dry Lagoon Mission 2. So. But these Knuckles and Rouge missions are probably the ones that I'm gonna do first, just because they're significantly faster, but I do plan on making practice categories for all of the characters in all A ranks, doing kind of a segmented 180 emblem run, if that makes any sense. The Knuckles and Rouge missions just go so much faster, and also there's no need to worry about routing in points, because you basically just get an A rank whenever you finish the level. Which is true of all Mission 2s and Mission 3s, but it's nice that you don't have to worry about it in the 1, 4s, and 5s either. Just by going fast, you get enough points, and here you get to see the terrible collision of these, like, breakable meteors and breakable boxes. So, aside from that mistake at the end, the rest of the Mission 2 was quite good. Probably could have been a 41, maybe a 40. That wasted quite a bit of time. And like I said, this is not particularly a good run or anything, it's very easily beatable, but I just wanted to make a video where I demonstrate all of the strats, essentially. And maybe down the road I'll post a better video. Sub 24 should definitely be possible. That was another very dumb mistake where I simply didn't dig into the portrait the first time. The Wild Canyon Mission 3 is essentially free, and a 13 would be a good time. 14 would also not be too terrible. Now here I made a very stupid mistake. I went into the wrong mission in Pumpkin Hill, and then I also didn't reset, or get out of the mission. I reset it instead of going, like, back out. Which, if you were doing an actual 180 emblems run, would not happen, because you select the missions through the emblem results screen. So you're basically just pushing A on the A rank emblem, and it's taking you to these missions in this order. And we get another skeleton dog, just because it's right on the way. If you were doing an IL, you could actually do the rising start glitch here to avoid having to take the first rocket. And the Lost Chow's right there. Very simple. Aquatic Mine Mission 3 is actually the shortest mission into the entire game, but I keep flubbing it up, which is very annoying. The clip out of bounds on this particular Lost Chow sign, I don't know why, but it seems to not want to cooperate. Every other sign clip I have no problems with, but this one's a bit annoying. I actually did manage to clip out first try on this run, but I clipped it back inbounds way too early. So you can get times significantly below 10, you can get 8 seconds, 7 seconds, if you do very well. But that was the first good aquatic mine, quote-unquote good. Death Chamber Mission 3. Okay, this one did not go well. This is probably the biggest mistake in the run. And I'm also doing a bit of a compromise strat for this mission. I'm going to use the green door to clip out of bounds. It is a lot faster to clip out on the right side, but for whatever reason the right side of this door does not like to cooperate, so I clip out on the left side. But I also fail to glide reset properly and clip back inbounds at a very weird angle, and this cost a lot of time. But what I am happy about is that I get to show off a bit of an inconsistent strat, which is using the hourglass itself to clip into the Lost Chow room. And that avoids having to go back around and glide and get the Lost Chow the normal way, so that saves a bit of time. But this can go much lower. You could get 24 or so. You could save 10 to 12 seconds. What I am happy about, however, was Meteor Herd Mission 3. This went quite well. There's a very finicky clip to do in this one. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Dreamcast actually has a faster clip that allows you to go directly to the Lost Chow, but this one is good enough. It saves time over going the normal route that you're supposed to take. but it can be a bit finicky. I clip in second to try, actually, and I get a 40, which is not bad at all. If you do things the normal way, you get about a 50, so this clip is a good 10-second time save if you can do it consistently, but it can be a little scary. Yeah, 40 is not a bad time at all. Alright, now the Mission 4s. As you can tell by the splits, my Mission 4s did not go very well. In the last attempt that I did, I got pretty bad RNG everywhere. Especially this 35 Wild Canyon was not good at all. But now I actually got a pretty good first piece in front of a bird chest with 4 feathers. Pretty good, near the 6 pillars. It can be quite difficult to tell which of the 4 rocks near the 6 pillars is in, but I managed to get it relatively quickly, and we got a 24, which is more or less an average time for Wild Canyon. Now, a small difference between Mission 1 and 4 is that when I get to Pumpkin Hill, I'm going to grab the hint that's behind me at the start instead of the hint that's by the upgrade, because it is a bit faster. This one also went very poorly in my last PB. Skull marks the spot. I am not a big fan of this piece. Most of the first pieces on Church, unless they're at the very top, not a huge fan. But they're not as bad as some of the first pieces on Pumpkin. Ghost Train Station is a very bad second piece, however, but fortunately I get about the best third piece I could have possibly hoped for from this location, which is Ghost Pumpkin's Necklace. Also, wasn't this the piece that I got in Mission 1? I can't remember. Yeah, so this piece wouldn't be able to spawn in Mission 1 because it's not a diggable piece. And an interesting thing is that the pieces, most pieces that are underground that you have to dig for, are actually hard-coded in as diggable pieces, and if you get out of bounds, you can't collect them, even if you touch them. That you have to be in the digging state and that location to collect them, but there are some pieces that are underground or in walls that, for whatever reason, are not digging pieces. Flattened Grass in Pumpkin Hill is an example of that. Flat Eggman, Flattened Scorpion, and Death Chamber. And most importantly, a couple pieces in the Mission 5s are also like that, which I'll explain when we get there. Now this aquatic mine in my PB was an absolute train wreck. I got a reset piece, 2 reset pieces in a row actually, and then minecart dumping area, which is arguably the worst piece 2 in the game, or at least in the Knuckles missions. So even though this was not particularly good, it still saved quite a bit of time. I probably should have been looking out for Main Pillar, which is that free piece that has a very strange hitbox for whatever reason. But I wasn't really paying attention to it. So I could have gotten that as a free piece and saved a bit of time. A Death Chamber Mission 4. The big difference here is that obviously you cannot do death strats, because if you die in Mission 4, you don't save your pieces. But I get Shoebox, which is not a terrible first piece. It's more or less average. And it tends to spawn second pieces that are in red. So we get a second piece in red, and then we get a third piece in green, and we get more or less an average time. I would be very happy with a set of pieces in a hero story run, because I've lost many runs to getting terrible, terrible pieces in Death Chamber. And to just, in general, being a bit not up to date on my strats with all of the new out-of-bounds tech and whatnot. Alright, and if I had spiraled upward a bit faster here, could have saved a second or so. So we've saved a significant amount of time in Mission 4s. Meteor Herd was very interesting. This time around. For once in my life, I actually got a good Meteor Herd, which is a sub 40. Pretty much any sub 40 I'd consider a good Meteor Herd. Even a low 40 I'd consider a good Meteor Herd, because... ugh, Meteor Herd. Anyway, so I get this first piece, the Ark's Huge Storage Area, which could be in 4 different locations, but I get it in the closest location. And then, very uncommonly, I get a second piece that's in the middle of the level. This is very rare, but also quite fast. So this meteor herd actually ended up being quite good. And then this piece can be in a whole bunch of different spots, but this is the most triangular of all the spots. And there's a nice gold split for us. Even though my attempt counter says 67, that is not entirely accurate. I've really had a lot of problems getting the auto splitter to work correctly with this, so I've really probably only done, maybe 20 attempts of this or so, and reset for RNG in the first few ones, even though this is a practice category, I don't know why. Anyway, the Mission 5s, that piece in the bottom of the wind tunnel, you're supposed to use a spring that appears with the sunglasses, but you can just kind of finagle your way down there. Same thing with this. This statue clip can be a bit finicky, and mine was actually quite slow, so this was not a particularly good. Wild Canyon 5, I usually get about a 22 or a 23, but a 26 is not that big of a deal. As I mentioned, over the course of a 9.5 or 10 hour speedrun, losing a couple seconds here or there, not really that big of a deal. Especially when you're just starting out, as I am. Alright, so this is Pumpkin Hill Mission 5. I actually use a compromise strat in this one because I'm bad at glide resets, and this is one of the pieces that's inside of a wall that you can actually get with a spiral upper because Knuckles' hitbox bleeds out. Now you can actually grab the next piece I'm about to grab with the first rocket that I take, but if you miss it, you have to do a backup strat that wastes almost 20 seconds. However, if you do this strat by taking the second rocket, you lose about 7 or 8 seconds, relatively, and I get another skeleton dog here. But it is much more consistent. Loses about 7 or 8 seconds, though. So you could get times that are 32, close to sub 30. You can definitely get sub 30 if you skip out on the skeleton dog. So there's potential time save there. It's something that I'll work on practicing, but you get the general idea of the IL. Aquatic Mine 5. This one did not go particularly well. Here, the Lost Chow sign gave me a bit of trouble, but not quite as much trouble as it did in my old personal best. As you can see here, some funny things happen, but Knuckles finally decides to clip out of bounds. So this was probably the worst Mission 5 in the whole run. The idea here is to kill yourself on this spike ball after grabbing the first emerald, and you don't need the points from that first emerald to get the A rank. All you need to do is get the other 2 emeralds, and you get enough points. And now you can clip out of bounds on that sign. See, as I said, none of the other signs give me troubles, just the Lost Chow sign for whatever reason. And you actually have to be careful getting this last piece that you're low enough, otherwise you will die. There is a spike ball out of bounds that you can flip into and get hit with no rings, and that's not very fun. If you were to die after collecting 2 pieces, I don't think you'd be able to get enough points to salvage it. Oh, Death Chamber Mission 5, there's actually a bit of a new strat here. I'm going to clip out of bounds in a much different way, and then grab another piece that you're supposed to dig for while out of bounds, which you are not normally supposed to be able to do with diggable pieces, but this one, however, you can grab out of bounds. And this is a bit of a scary strat, because if you miss the piece, you're dead, and you waste about 15 seconds or so, depending on how fast you clip out of bounds. The end of this mission did not go particularly well. Normally when I grab this piece, I immediately clip back in bounds, but somehow I found myself out of bounds, and then I somehow accidentally got back in bounds. So that wasted quite a bit of time, and I got a 40, which is not very good with the strats that I'm using. You could get times below sub 30 if you were able to stay out of bounds and then quickly grab the last piece. My best is a low 30, though. But obviously, I just care about getting the strat in runs for now. Meteor Herd Mission 5 also has a Dreamcast exclusive strat. This first piece I'm about to grab, if you were to spiral upper next to the wall on the Dreamcast, you would actually even be able to collect this piece, because the hitbox is just that big on the Dreamcast. Unfortunately, we have to do some safe strats. And it's, or well, not safe strats, but non-Dreamcast strats. And that pieces can be quite a bit annoying. It takes a lot of practice to know how far you need to be away from that meteor to make sure you punch it at the correct distance. If you punch it too hard, it'll go flying far away, and it'll waste a bit of time, because you can't really break the door if the meteor isn't lined up correctly. So then we jump here, get that piece, turn left and fall, and we get the last piece. And that's it. That's all the Knuckles missions with A ranks, with upgrades, with animals, in 24 minutes and 24 seconds, which is not super meaningful for anything, because in a 180 emblems run, you would also have to sit through the emblem cutscene, where your emblems go up. But this run was fun to do, was not particularly special, and here I show off the animals that I collected, which are a whole bunch of skeleton dogs and condors. If this were a 180 emblems run, I would go into Green Forest, the last mission that you do, and then collect 2 half fishes in that level, and then we'd be ready to go.